Have you ever said, I went to Paris, when you maybe should have said, I have been to
Oh,
Paris?
yeah. Or, you know, wondered why native speakers are always asking, have you eaten? Instead of, like, did you eat?
Right. It's such a common thing. And imagine you're sitting in this high-stakes job interview, right?
Oh, stressful.
Very. So you're across the table from a hiring manager, the room is dead quiet, and they're looking over your resume,
Okay.
and they ask you a straightforward question about your past. Well, depending entirely on whether you answer with the phrase, I managed a team, or I have managed a team, you are like subconsciously sending two completely different signals.
Yeah, that is so true.
Because with one phrase, you're subtly implying that your skills are sort of a relic of the past, like they're boxed up and put away on a shelf somewhere.
Right, like it's over and done with.
Exactly. But with the other phrase, you're declaring that those skills are a living, breathing part of who you are right this second. Like they're ready to be deployed.
Which is wild when you think about it, because the vocabulary is virtually identical. I mean, the timeline is the same.
Right. But the grammatical structure you choose actually alters the hiring manager's perception of your reality. So today, we are taking a massive deep dive into a comprehensive guide dedicated to demystifying the absolute most confusing tense for B1 to C1 English learners.
Oh, yes, the dreaded present
The
perfect.
present perfect. It really is the tense that haunts almost every non-native speaker, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I mean, you can be incredibly fluent, right? You can have this massive vocabulary, and still you feel this like slight hesitation when you're deciding between I went and I have gone.
Yes. Why is that? Why does it stick with us?
Well, the reason it remains so elusive, and it really does, isn't because the rules are inherently impossible to grasp. It's because, unfortunately, most learners are taught this tense as a mathematical equation.
Ugh, yes, the tables.
Right. They are handed these massive robotic tables of verbs and just told to memorize the conjugations. They never get taught the underlying logic of, well, why the tense even exists in the first place.
Which is exactly what we are throwing out the window today. No robotic tables here.
Good riddance.
Seriously. Our mission for this deep dive is to fundamentally shift how you, the listener, perceive this grammar structure. We're going to explore how the present perfect actively shapes the way English speakers view the concept of time itself.
That's the key right there. Time.
Exactly. And by the time we're done unpacking the source material, you won't need to second-guess yourself anymore, because you'll understand the beating heart of the idea. You'll understand the actual logic behind it.
And to find that logic, we really have to start by looking at what the present perfect is reacting against. We have to look at the simple past tense.
Okay, let's unpack this. How do they compare?
Well, the source material uses this brilliant architectural metaphor here. It describes the simple past tense as a closed door.
A closed door, I like that.
Right. Because when you use the simple past, you are talking about a finished moment. It is sealed off, locked, and completely separated from your present reality.
So it's like you're describing a room you've already left.
Exactly. You've left the room and you have firmly shut the door behind you.
Okay, so if I say, I drank a cup of coffee, the action of drinking is trapped in that locked room.
Yes. It's history.
It has basically no bearing on what I am doing right now.
Precisely. The physical action and its relevance are both contained within that closed space. But the present perfect is an entirely different architectural structure altogether.
It's the bridge, right?
It's the bridge. It is a grammatical mechanism specifically engineered to connect a past action directly to the present moment.
Oh, wow. So it tells the listener that something from the past is bleeding into the present.
Yeah, the past isn't sealed off at all. It has this direct, unbroken line to this exact second.
Let's ground this in the dinner scenario from our text, because I think this illustrates the bridge perfectly.
Yeah, the restaurant example is great.
Right. So you're meeting a friend for dinner. You walk into the restaurant, sit down, and your friend asks, shall we order some food?
A very normal question.
Very normal. Now, if you reply, I've already eaten, you are using the present perfect, the actual physical action of chewing and swallowing your food that happened in the past.
Right.
But the result of that action, the fact that your stomach is currently full and you have absolutely no desire to look at a menu right now, that result is sitting right there at the table with you.
The bridge is intact.
Yes, the bridge is intact.
But compare that exact same physical action to a conversation, let's say, the following day.
Okay.
So that same friend calls you on the phone and asks, what did you have for dinner last night? You do not use the bridge here. You say, I had pasta.
Because last night is a closed door.
Exactly. the night is over.
The time frame of last night is this specific closed moment in history. Your current state of hunger is totally irrelevant to the question.
Right. There is no present result that matters to the context of the phone call. There's no bridge to right now. You are simply reporting a historical fact from behind a locked door.
I want to try looking at this through a different lens, actually, maybe a bit more visual for the listeners.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
Think about throwing a heavy stone into a still pond.
Okay, I can picture that.
If you are using the simple past, you are just describing the stone hitting the water, splash. The stone sinks to the bottom, the event is over, and you're just stating that the impact occurred.
I like that. Splash, it's done.
Right. But the present perfect is the ripple.
Oh, that's good.
It's the wave that was caused by the stone, right? It's traveling all the way across the water, and right now, at this exact moment, that ripple is physically washing over your feet at the edge of the pond.
Yeah.
So when we use the present perfect, we aren't really concerned with the stone anymore. We are concerned with the water touching our toes.
What's fascinating here is that that visual captures the psychological shift required to use this tense correctly. You aren't just reciting a timeline of events anymore.
No, you're evaluating it.
Exactly. You are being forced to pause and evaluate the present relevance of your past actions. You're making this active, real-time judgment about how your personal history is influencing your current environment.
Which is kind of intense when you think about it.
It is. It requires a significantly deeper level of cognitive processing than simply, stating a fact about what you did yesterday. It requires you to weigh the past against the present before you even open your mouth to speak.
You are constantly acting as a judge over your own timeline. That is a heavy cognitive load for a learner to carry.
It really is.
But now that we understand the philosophy of this bridge, we really need to look at the raw materials required to actually build it. We have to look at the mechanics.
Right, the actual grammar.
Yeah. The source material lays out a specific formula. Subject plus have or has plus the past participle.
And breaking down those components reveals how the bridge actually functions mechanically.
Let's do that.
So the first section is the subject paired with the auxiliary verb. For the pronouns I, you, we, or they, you deploy the word have.
Okay, so I have.
Right. And for the third person singular pronouns, he, she, or it, you deploy the word has. This is the foundational block. I have, she has, they have.
Simple enough. And then we hit the notorious hurdle that trips up almost every single learner. We hit the past participle.
Oh, boy. Yes. The dreaded third form of the verb.
The third form, why is it so frustrating?
Well, for regular verbs, the past participle is basically invisible as a unique concept because it mimics the simple past perfectly.
Right, it just takes the ed suffix.
Exactly. The verb work becomes worked in the simple past, and it just remains work as a past participle. Live becomes lived. Watch becomes watched. Your brain doesn't really have to switch gears.
But the irregular verbs are absolute wild cards. They actively defy the pattern.
They do whatever they want.
Like the verb go turns into went in the simple past, but then morphs into gone for the past participle.
Right.
Eat goes to ate and then eaten. See shifts to saw and then seen. And the verb to be is perhaps the most chaotic of all. It goes from am or is becoming was or were and finally landing on been.
Yeah, the frustration learners feel here is entirely justified because when you encounter these irregular forms, your brain is desperately searching for a logical pattern to apply, right?
I just want a rule.
You want a rule you can use to deduce the correct word. But there isn't one that works universally. The English language is fundamentally Germanic in its roots, and it carries the scars of centuries of linguistic evolution and invasions and shifts.
So it's just history messing with us.
Pretty much. Many of these irregular verbs are remnants of a time when verbs changed their internal vowels to show tense, what linguists actually call strong verbs like sing, sang, sung.
Which explains why the most common verbs are the most irregular.
Yes, exactly. They're the oldest.
Well, the source material gives some highly actionable advice here, and honestly, it's brutally honest. You just have to keep a list.
Yep. No way around it.
The text specifically recommends grabbing a resource like the free Oxford 3000 Irregular Verbs list. You print it out, you keep a screenshot on your phone, and you expose yourself to it constantly. There is no magical shortcut around the memorization of the forms themselves.
No, there isn't. But while the forms require that rote exposure, understanding the function of the two halves of the formula makes the entire structure feel, less arbitrary.
How so?
Well, the past participle, that strange shape-shifting third form we just talked about, that provides the actual action of the past, it is the event itself.
Okay, the action.
Right, and the have or has acts as the anchor.
The anchor, I love that.
You need both elements to sustain the bridge. You need the anchor firmly planted in the present moment, holding the tension of the line, and you need the action grounded in the past at the other end.
So if you drop the anchor or you lose the action,
The grammatical bridge just collapses into the water.
the anchor and the action, that really takes the mystery out of the syntax for me.
It helps, right?
Definitely. So let's move from the construction of the bridge to where we actually build it in daily life. We're going to explore the wide lens of your life.
Okay.
The source material categorizes the uses of the present perfect into 4 distinct areas or pillars. And here's where it gets really interesting. The first major use case is life experiences.
Yeah.
This covers anything you have done at some point in your existence
Yeah.
without ever specifying exactly when the clock struck.
Which goes right back to the job interview scenario we opened with. That is the quintessential example of this.
It's because they're asking about your whole life.
Exactly. When a hiring manager asks, have you ever worked with a large team?
Hmm.
They are not asking for a timestamp. They do not care if it was on a Tuesday in November of 2021 at 3:20 p.m.
No, they don't.
They are asking about your cumulative life experience up to the very second you are sitting in that chair. They are using the wide lens to view your entire professional history as a single, unbroken timeline.
And your answer naturally reflects that wide lens. You say, I have visited 15 countries, or I have managed a team of 50 people.
Right.
The exact date is completely irrelevant. What matters is that the experience, the knowledge, the result of those actions, it all lives inside you right now.
Yes.
And the text highlights some incredibly useful signal words that frequently accompany this usage. Words like ever, which shows up primarily in questions like, have you ever been to Japan? And never, used for negative statements like, she has never eaten sushi. Or the word before, as in, I've seen this film before.
And, notice how native speakers naturally handle these life experiences in conversation. The source outlines this beautiful, almost rhythmic pattern in spoken English. It's the seamless shift from the general present perfect to the specific simple past.
It's like a dance.
You can totally think of it as a conversational dance.
Let's map out the steps of that dance for the listener.
Okay.
So, if I ask a friend, have you ever tried Korean food? I'm throwing out the wide net, right? I'm using the present perfect to see if the general experience exists anywhere in their history.
Right. And your friend replies, yes, I have. They confirm the existence of the bridge. But the human brain naturally craves narrative detail. We don't just want to know that an event happened. We want the
I
context.
just want the story.
Exactly. So your follow-up question inevitably zooms in. You drop the wide lens and grab a microscope. You ask, when did you try it? Or where did you go?
And the second I ask when, I have slammed the door on the wide general experience. I am now forcing the conversation into a specific historical moment. The present perfect just vanishes.
Yes. The first question establishes that the experience is relevant today. The follow-up question walks backward over the bridge to examine the specific details of the past event. It's a highly natural transition, but it perfectly illustrates the distinct jobs these two tenses perform.
It's like the present perfect surveys the landscape, and the simple past digs in the dirt.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so that covers the massive sweeping life experiences. But what about the small stuff? What if an action literally just happened 5 minutes ago, but it is still dictating my reality right now?
This brings us to the second major use case: recent actions with present results.
The text gives some highly dramatic examples here. Think about the phrase, I've lost my keys.
The worst feeling.
The worst. The action of dropping them happened in the past, but the immediate, inescapable present result is that I am standing in the freezing rain, locked out of my apartment.
Right.
Or another one, she's broken her arm. The fall happened yesterday, but the result is that she is physically wearing a plaster cast right now.
Now, for a learner, to distinguishing between a past action with a present result and a simple past action can sometimes feel subjective. It feels like you were guessing.
Yeah, I can see how it feels like a gray area.
But the source material introduces a phenomenal critical thinking tool to eliminate the guesswork entirely.
Oh, this is the point to it test.
Yes. This raises an important question. How do you know if there's a present result? The point to it test requires you to interact with your physical reality.
It demands tangible evidence.
Exactly. If you are debating internally about which tense to use, ask yourself one simple question. Can I physically point to the result right now?
Let's do an example.
Imagine a scenario where your cat knocks over a vase. You walk into the room. Can you point to the shattered glass and the spilled water on the rug?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yes. Therefore, you say, the cat has knocked over the vase. Present perfect. Or imagine you order a car to take you to the airport.
Yeah.
You look out the window. Can you point to the taxi idling at the curb?
Yes, I can point right at it.
Yes. So you say, the taxi has arrived. If the evidence is visible and undeniable in the current moment, the bridge requires absolutely no further justification.
That is such a grounding technique. Literally, if you feel lost in the grammar, just look around the room and see if you can point to the ripple on the pond. So we have life experiences and we have recent actions. Let's look at scenarios where the action itself hasn't even stopped. This is the third major use case, continuing situations.
Right. So these are actions or states of being that originated at some point in the past, but the activity is still actively occurring right now.
Like, I have lived in London for 3 years.
Yes. The implication there is not that your time in London is over. The implication is that your belongings are in a flat in London and you are still a resident there today.
Or take the sentence, we have been married for 22 years. They are not divorced. The state of marriage is ongoing.
Right.
I actually want to take a second here for an interactive listener moment drawn straight from the text.
Well, let's do it.
So you, listening to this deep dive right now, wherever you are, I want you to answer this prompt out loud using the present perfect. How long have you been studying English?
Say to yourself.
Say it out loud right now. Yeah. I have been studying English I have studied English since. You are describing a continuous situation. You started learning in the past, and you are literally maintaining that action right now by listening to us analyze this grammar.
And that prompt perfectly introduces the two vital signal words that govern continuing situations: for and since.
Oh, yes.
Mastering the distinction between these two tiny words is absolutely critical because they map time in completely different ways.
Let's break down the difference. It's the tape measure versus the calendar pin.
Yes. Think of the word for as a tape measure. Its only job is to measure duration. It measures a quantity of time. You use it when you are highlighting the length of the period the action has been occurring for 3 years, for a long time, for 6 months, for a decade.
So it tells the listener exactly how wide the bridge is from the past to the present.
Exactly. And if for is the tape measure, since is the sharp pin pressed into a calendar.
I love that analogy.
Since does not care about duration at all. It only cares about the exact point of origin. It marks the specific moment the action began.
Since 2018, since last March, since we were children.
Right, since I graduated. It marks the precise anchor point in the past where the bridge originates. You use the tape measure to show the distance, and you use the pin to show the start.
That mental image makes it almost impossible to confuse the two, which actually leads us perfectly into the fourth and final major use case, which deals heavily with how we perceive time containers.
Time containers.
Yeah, we are talking about unfinished time periods. This is where we contrast an open time frame against a closed time frame.
Right, we are looking at the boundaries of the period in which an action happens. Let's imagine it's 3:00 p.m. You're at the office and you say to a colleague, I've had 3 coffees today.
You must use the present perfect because the container labeled today is still open.
Exactly. The day is actively happening. There is a very real statistical probability that you might have a 4th coffee before midnight. The time period is not finished its cycle.
But the very next morning, when you walk into the office, you cannot utter that exact same sentence. You cannot say, I have had 3 coffees yesterday.
No, you can't.
You are forced to say, I had 3 coffees yesterday, because the container labeled yesterday is sealed shut. The day is dead, gone, and completely closed off. You cannot retroactively add a 4th coffee to yesterday.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the philosophical implications of this rule are staggering. It demonstrates how grammar literally dictates our perception of reality.
How do you mean?
Well, a day, a week, a month, or an entire year can be grammatically alive or grammatically dead, depending entirely on whether the clock has struck midnight.
Oh, wow.
If I say, I have read 5 books this year, the year is a living, breathing entity. There is room for more reading. The bridge is wide open. But the very second that January 1st arrives, that entire previous year dies grammatically. You must use the simple past to describe anything that happened within it.
So by choosing the present perfect, you are declaring that the period of your life you are currently discussing is still alive. Precisely.
It's like you're forcing the speaker to acknowledge their own mortality in a way.
Yeah.
The grammar is making you constantly track what parts of your life are still open to change and what parts are locked in the vault forever.
It really is. It's deep.
To help learners navigate these alive and dead timeframes, the source provides a roadmap of signal words. We touched on for, since, ever, and never, but there are several adverbs that act as massive clues.
They're practically neon signs telling you to use the present perfect.
Right. They do function as structural triggers, but we have to look deeper, right? These adverbs carry profound emotional nuance and conversational subtext. They aren't just mechanical parts, they convey attitude.
They really do. Let's analyze the word just. A learner might think just simply means recently, but when someone says, I've just arrived, it implies an extreme recentness, almost a breathlessness.
Oh, totally. It's dropping your heavy bags at the front door, you're still wearing your coat, and you say, I've just arrived. It's visceral.
Yeah.
What about the subtext of already? Now, already is an incredibly defensive word, especially in the workplace.
Really? Defensive.
Think about it. If a manager asks you to send a report, and you reply, I've already sent it, you are doing much more than providing a timeline update. Already implies that an action was completed before it was expected by the other person.
Oh, I see.
It carries a subtext of speed, efficiency, and sometimes surprise. You are defending your competence. You are telling them you beat their expectation.
I feel like yet carries even more emotional baggage, but maybe in the opposite direction, like, haven't you eaten yet?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yet is dripping with expectation. It is used almost exclusively in questions and negative statements when an action is fully expected to happen, but it remains unfulfilled.
So it implies a state of anticipation.
Exactly. And depending heavily on the speaker's tone of voice, it can convey significant impatience. If a boss asks, haven't you finished that report yet? They're not just asking for a status update. They're stating that they've been waiting for you to build the bridge, and they are openly annoyed that the construction is delayed.
Right. And finally, we have still. As in, she still hasn't replied to my email.
Still operates in the exact same emotional territory as yet, but it places the emphasis on the ongoing nature of the absence.
The absence of the action.
Right. The expectation is heavy, and the silence or the lack of action is continuing unabated right up to the present moment. It really highlights the frustration of the waiting period.
So you aren't just picking a tense to be grammatically correct. You are layering subtext, defending yourself, or applying pressure.
Grammar is psychology.
It really is. Just to quickly rattle off the rest of the roadmap words for the listener to mentally pocket, we have recently, lately, so far, this week, this month, this year, before. When you hear these words, your brain should immediately recognize that you are operating in an open, living time frame.
They're the safety signs on the road.
But what happens when learners ignore the safety signs and drive their sentence right off the bridge? We need to talk about catastrophic structural failures. This brings us to the traps. Navigating the common mistakes that plague B1 and B2 learners.
Let's troubleshoot the machinery.
Mistake number 1 is the absolute golden rule of this tense. It is the fatal error, using specific past time.
Yes, the rule is entirely unforgiving here. You never, under any circumstances, use the present perfect with specific past time expressions.
Like what?
Words like yesterday, in 2019, on Monday, at 3:00 p.m. If a learner says, I have visited Barcelona in 2019, the sentence just collapses. It must be, I visited Barcelona in 2019.
Wait, I am actually going to push back on this rule. Let's test the boundaries of this.
Okay, I'm ready.
What if I am holding a physical photograph in my hand, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a picture of me standing in front of the Sagrada Familia in Spain in 2019. The photograph is the present result. It's in my hand right now. I can literally point to it using our test. Why can't I hold up the picture and say, I have visited Barcelona in 2019. I have the anchor and I have the evidence.
That is a brilliant challenge, actually, but the sentence still fails. And understanding why reveals the core cognitive clash at the heart of the mistake. When you say, I have visited, your brain is successfully holding on to the present anchor. The photograph makes the memory feel highly relevant to you right now. You want to show that the experience is alive.
Right, because I'm holding it.
But simultaneously, you have bolted the words in 2019 to the end of the sentence. And 2019 functions as an absolute unbreakable lock on the door.
Ah, so the specific time frame overrides the physical evidence.
Exactly. It is a grammatical paradox.
Yeah.
You are trying to declare that the time frame is open and connected to the present, while simultaneously deploying vocabulary that explicitly states the time frame is dead and buried.
You can't have it both ways.
No, you cannot have a bridge anchored in the present moment if the far side of the bridge is locked behind a door marked 2019. The specific time marker completely shatters the bridge. The brain is trying to execute two mutually exclusive commands at once.
Okay, that makes sense.
You have to drop the date to keep the bridge. I have visited Barcelona. Look at this photo. Or you drop the bridge to keep the date. I visited Barcelona in 2019. You just cannot have both.
That makes the why behind the rule so incredibly clear. It's a conflict of intentions. Now, mistake number 2 on the list is confusing for and since. We covered the mechanics of this, but it bears repeating. If a learner says, I have lived here since 3 years, they're making a category error.
Right. They are trying to use a calendar pin to do the job of a tape measure.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, am I saying how long, which is for, or when it started, which is since?
Exactly. Now, mistake number 3 is purely structural. It is using the wrong participle.
Ah, yes. Saying good instead of gone, eated instead of eaten, buyed instead of bought.
I've buyed the tickets. You hear this all the time.
You do. And we really have to give learners grace here because even native-speaking children make these exact same errors as they acquire the language.
Oh, definitely.
A toddler will absolutely say, I ate the cookie, because their brain has successfully identified the regular ED pattern for the past tense, and they're logically applying it. The error actually proved they understand the basic machinery of the language.
It's a smart mistake.
It is. But, as we discussed earlier, the irregular verbs defy logic. Overcoming this mistake is purely a matter of volume. There is no shortcut. It requires massive exposure and practice until have bought carves a deep neural pathway and have buyed physically sounds jarring to the ear.
Practice, practice, practice. Mistake number 4 is deeply connected to our discussion about the photograph trap. It's asking questions about specific moments. If a question contains a specific time, it must be simple past.
Correct. You cannot ask a colleague, have you seen the manager this morning, if it is currently 3:00 p.m.
Because this morning is a dead time container by 3:00 p.m. The morning is over.
Exactly. You must ask, did you see the manager this morning? Now, if you want to use the present perfect to see if they have encountered the manager at all today, you have to utilize an open time frame. You ask, have you seen the manager today? Or have you seen the manager recently?
So let's take all of this theory, the living in dead time frames, the emotional subtext of the signal words, the fatal errors, and let's look at them operating out in the wild.
Real conversations.
Yes. The source material provides a listening practice section, setting up 2 distinct scenarios to see how native speakers fluidly shift between these tenses. Let's analyze conversation 1 like literary critics.
I love this part.
It's 2 friends, Alex and Priya, catching up. Priya opens by saying, I've just started a new job.
And right there's the word just. The breathlessness we talked about.
Yep.
She deploys the present perfect with just because the new job is dictating her absolute present reality. I mean, the physical action of signing the employment contract happened in the past, but the result is that she is exhausted. She's learning new systems. She's meeting new people right now. The bridge is the focus of her life.
Okay, so later in the same conversation, Alex mentions he is training for a marathon. Priya says she has never run one. Alex replies, I haven't done one before either. Why does Alex choose I haven't done one before instead of I didn't do one?
Because the word before signals that he is surveying his life experiences. He is looking back over the entire open time frame of his existence, from birth up to the exact second he is speaking to Priya. He's confirming that nowhere on that unbroken timeline does a marathon exist.
Fascinating. Now, conversation 2 is where the true masterclass influency happens. This takes place in an office setting between a manager and an employee named Sarah. Early in the exchange, Sarah says, I've already sent 2 emails.
And we know from our analysis that already means she is defending her efficiency. She beat the expectation.
Right. But right at the end of the conversation, the manager asks if she sent the specific meeting agenda out to the team. Sarah replies, yes, I sent it yesterday afternoon.
This transition is the pivot point. This is exactly what high-level fluency looks like in practice.
Notice the shift.
The entire conversation has been floating in the present, perfect, unresolved issues, things that just happened, open time frames. But the instant Sarah introduces the word yesterday, she effortlessly drops the present perfect and adopts the simple past. She says, I sent it yesterday.
She doesn't say, I have sent it yesterday. She avoids the fatal error.
She intuitively understands that she cannot use the bridge anymore. The introduction of yesterday caused the time frame to snap shut.
Yeah.
It is a solace, real-time illustration of closing the time door. She navigates the boundary between alive time and dead time without a second thought.
It is genuinely satisfying to dissect a conversation and see the underlying physics of the grammar working perfectly like that.
It's beautiful, really.
Now, before we wrap up the theoretical portion of the deep dive, the source text briefly introduces the cousin of our main topic, the present perfect continuous. The formula shifts just slightly. It is subject plus have or has plus been, plus the verb ending in ing, like I have been studying.
Yes. And it is crucial to recognize how this cousin operates because the distinction between the simple present perfect and the continuous version comes down to a matter of focus.
Focus.
Yeah, they both build a bridge to the present, but they shine a spotlight on completely different parts of the structure.
Can you break down that difference in focus for us?
Sure. The simple version, which we have spent all our time on today, focuses intensely on the completion of the action or the result. Like, I have read 50 pages of the report. The spotlight is on the achievement, the finish line, the physical pages that have been turned and processed.
Okay, completion.
The continuous version, however, completely ignores the finish line. It focuses entirely on the ongoing activity itself. I've been reading the report all afternoon.
Ah, so you might not have even finished a single section of the report. You might still be stuck on page 1.
Exactly. But you want to emphasize to your boss the sheer effort and the duration of the exhausting process.
So I have read 50 pages, highlights the result of the labor. I have been reading, highlights the labor itself. They both connect past effort to present reality, but they tell a slightly different story about what matters most.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean? After analyzing the philosophy of the bridge, the architecture of the verbs, the wide and narrow lenses, the alive and dead timeframes, the emotional subtext, and the traps, what does this actually mean for the learner listening right now?
The core takeaway is that the present perfect is not a random collection of rules designed by linguists to torture you.
Though it feels like it sometimes.
It does. But it's really a highly specific, highly expressive tool. Once you understand the meaning behind it, that you are making an active, conscious decision to connect your personal history to your current reality, the need to memorize robotic tables just fades away.
You can simply express the connection between your past and your present.
Exactly. You can stop calculating equations and start using the language to express who you are today based on what you did yesterday. Language is a journey, not a race.
I love that. And, understanding the theory is only half the battle. To ensure these concepts physically wire themselves into your brain, the source material concludes with a highly practical, actionable 7-day challenge.
Oh, this is the best part. It's designed to force you to build these bridges in your daily life.
Let's lay out the 7 days. I highly encourage everyone listening to actually attempt this. Take notes if you can.
Yes. So day 1 focuses on the wide lens. You write 10 sentences about your life experiences using the signal words ever and never.
Simple enough.
Day 2 focuses on open containers. So you notice 5 things that have happened today in unfinished time frame, and you write them down using the present perfect.
Day 3.
Day 3 focuses on continuing situations. Describe 5 things in your life using for, so, become, and so, practicing the tape measure, and 5 things using since, practicing the calendar pin.
That builds a really solid foundation. What happens on day 4?
Day 4 is dedicated to troubleshooting. You revisit the common mistake, specifically that fatal error of specific past time. You write down flawed sentences intentionally, and then you act as the teacher and actively correct them.
Oh, I like that role play.
Day 5. Day 5 pushes your narrative skills. You write a short paragraph, maybe 8 to 10 sentences, detailing what you have achieved this year. Because this year is a living time frame, the entire paragraph will naturally rely on the present perfect.
I like the escalation to a full paragraph. It forces you to maintain the tense over a longer thought rather than just single sentences.
Exactly. Then day 6 moves from written to spoken. You record yourself speaking for 3 uninterrupted minutes about your life, actively trying to weave the present perfect into your natural speech pattern.
That's a challenge.
It is. And finally, day 7 is observational. You listen to English conversations, whether in real life, on podcasts, or in a movie, and you act as a linguistic detective. You try to spot every single instance of the present perfect, and you identify exactly why the speaker chose to use it instead of the simple past.
That is a remarkably comprehensive system for internalizing the grammar. It forces you to move from theory to execution.
It really does make it stick.
Now, as we bring this deep dive to a close, there is one final lingering thought I want to leave you with. It isn't explicitly spelled out in the source text, but it is the logical endpoint of everything we have analyzed today regarding bridges, closed doors, and how syntax shapes reality.
Yeah, I want the listeners to think deeply about how their own native language handles the concept of time.
Right. Does it build grammatical bridges and closed doors, or does it map time in a completely different way altogether?
Because when you finally internalize the structure of the English present perfect, you are doing far more than memorizing a new formula. You really have to ask yourself, how does adopting the structure of the English present perfect force you to literally change the way you perceive your own history and its ongoing relevance to who you are today?
Are you fundamentally changing your relationship with your own memories by changing your grammar? We will let you chew on that one. But the next time you feel that a grammar rule is like a cloud, you can see it, but you just can't grab it. Remember the ripple on the pond. The stone is gone, it is sunk to the bottom, but the water is still moving at your feet. You have the tools now. Go build the bridge.